Hey everyone, good morning. So this is 21st of December. This is Monday, the first day in the week. And the new year is right in front of me. I can just jump to the new year. I am so excited to go to 2021. Obviously, 2020 is not a nice year, but it's kind of a good year for me because I got a lot of free time to do a whole lot of stuff. So anyhow, let's go ahead with our student management application. And right now, I think I'm all set for a 1 hour recording. I can record for 1 hour right now. I had a couple of calls in the morning, and I also had to take a live batch, and they are learning Spring Security right now. So once I complete the Spring JDBC for you, I'm thinking to make some Spring Security videos for you as well, and I'll make it available for free. Let's see if I can do that in next year probably, because obviously Spring JDBC I'll be recording just right now. Cool. So so I have time up to 1 o'clock. So let's see if I can complete the update and delete. Okay. So let me try to deploy my project. So I have just closed all your files, and I'm just going to deploy it quickly. Once your project starts, we are going to fix the bug. I remember the bug that we had yesterday. We had a bug for the update operation. Okay, so we are going to fix that first. So if I remember, if I'll go to a controller, what was our URL? This was our URL. So student. It is basically for showing the entire list of students, isn't it? So everything was working fine yesterday. Only one thing we need to take care right now is the update operation. So let's do that. So the problem was when I was trying to update a record. Let's say this record I want to update to Abhilash update or Abhilash 111. Let's say I'm changing the name and I'm changing the country to India. When I do submit, it was not updating this particular record. Rather, it was creating a new row with a updated information. Okay, it was basically creating a new row with the updated information. What we do not want, what we want is to update the things just right here. And also, I think I have given you some assignments yesterday. Just go ahead and think if you can solve this particular puzzle. I hope that you have spent some time thinking about that particular issue, but right now let me give you a straightaway solution. Okay, so I will not tell you the solution, you will tell me the solution. Okay, so guys, now think what is happening here. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to click on update, I'm getting this form. And let's say I am changing the country to something, and I'm doing submit. Where the flow is going? The flow is going to where? My art student form is where? The flow is going to here, isn't it? This is my form. This is the form that you guys are seeing just right here. Okay. Now when I do submit, the flow is going to save student. Let me copy this URL. Let me go back to my controller. Let me do Control F, Control V, find. Okay, so now here it is going, okay, to the save student method. Obviously, this particular method is getting called save student. And right here, inside this particular save student method, inside this, we are basically doing a DAO call, okay? And if I'll go to the DAO method, obviously, we are trying to insert that record to our database. And you can see that we are not entering the ID here. We are only inserting name, mobile, country, because the ID will be auto-generated for us by the database because we have set the ID key to auto-increment. If you remember that, where is my database? If I will go to my database, if you remember, the ID is basically going to be auto-generated. We need to fill in this particular value. This will be auto-generated, isn't it? Tables, students, and if I'm going to click on this range, this is auto incrementation or auto increment is checked. Okay, so basically the ID generation part is taken care by the database. Cool. So right now here we need to think what is the basic difference that we have between an insert operation and a delete operation. Think about it. When we're trying to insert a student, we are going to click here on the add. We'll go back, we'll click here on the add, and here we are filling out all the information. Let's say I'm filling out a name, let's say, Mayur or something, a mobile something, and country is, let's say, UK. Okay, when I do submit, the ID will be generated by my DB, isn't it? Because this Mayur is the record which is not available inside my DB, isn't it? So this is the fresh record. So once I do submit, if I'll go to my DB, you can see that record has been generated and an ID has been assigned to Mayur. Okay, but let's say right now I'm trying to update this record. Okay, if I want to update that particular record called Mayur, if I'll go here, if I click on update, right now this Mayur should have an ID, isn't it? Right here I'm getting all the information, Mayur, mobile, country, and see here in the log. Looking, if you remember, I was also printing the data, whatever I'm fetching from my database. So I'm trying to look for the data having the ID 12, and this is its data. This guy is having an ID, isn't it? So right now, when I do submit, whenever basically I should be updating some name, let's say Mayur KK, and when I do submit, I should update that particular record where ID is something like this, isn't it? So basically, that's the basic difference between an update and an insert. Insert is not having an ID that we need to generate, but the update means we have the ID available with us. So now here we need to think one particular thing we need to take care. Let me clear the console. Let me go to student controller. Okay, so once the submit is happening in the form, it is coming here, isn't it, to the save student method. So whenever we are trying to submit this particular form, this form is moving me to this action. Now here, only one thing we need to think. So if this save student, when this particular step, there is two scenarios when this particular save student will be hit. One is the insert scenario, one is the update scenario. Okay, only the difference here is, obviously, if I'll be going to submit this particular page, all this information will come to here. All this information will be binded with this particular student object. So right now for update, whenever we'll be doing submit, all this information we are fetching from DB, isn't it? If I'll go back, if I will click on an item, let's say happy thing, if I click on update, see this happy thing is having an ID, isn't it? If you remember, if we'll go to my controller, update student, if you remember here, I'm doing a service call, get student. So the point here is, if we are doing a service call, obviously the service is going to talk to the DB, and from the DB we are basically fetching that object which is having the ID, whoever basically the user clicked, or whatever his ID is, we are trying to paste that particular object. But now the question is, we are having that ID just right here, isn't it? Then this is the object we are sending through our model to this particular page. And of course, if I will go to that particular page right now, whenever I'll be displaying the name, mobile, country, whenever I'll be trying to displaying this, the ID also should be there, isn't it? The ID, I should be also having the ID here. If I'll do, I have not written the ID here because I don't want my user to, enter the ID. But if I want to show you the ID, if I'll create one more, form input here, form input, let's say path equal to ID. Okay, if I'll do that, if I'll go here and if I'll do refresh, you'll be seeing that the ID is 7 right now, isn't it? So for happy thing, if I'm clicking on let's say Anu's record, now she got an ID 3. That ID is available because this data that we are showing right now, we are fetching it from the DB. Then only we are showing it, isn't it? We are fetching it from the DB. Look at line number 68. Then only we are showing it right here in the art student. So the person whose data we are displaying on the screen, we are fetching it from the DB. But whenever we are inserting, whenever we're trying to insert a new record, we are clicking on add, and obviously here, we have to provide all this information, and this ID will be automatically generated, isn't it? So now the question here is, if we can identify whether somebody is clicking update or insert, if we can identify that with which path the user is coming to this particular page, either he is coming through the update path or he is coming through the add path. How he is trying to access this particular page? Because our add student page can be accessible through this, and also it can be accessible through this link. Okay, so we need to see, the user is clicking update or add. Okay, and based on that, we can decide either we need to fire a update statement or we need to fire a insert statement, isn't it? So right now inside the controller, so right now you can see the save student. This can be called through the insert or through the update, because when somebody is going to submit the form, okay, obviously the flow will come to here, to the save student, isn't it? Right now here inside the save student, obviously I'm trying to check here that whether the guy is clicked on update, because if he clicked on update, then he should have an ID. But if he is clicking on insert, he should not have an ID, because we are going to generate that ID for him. Okay, so let's see that whether that is happening. If we can have a hold of his ID, then we can perform an update operation. We will write one more DAO method for updating the record. I'll tell you what I basically mean right now. So let me go back. Okay, so for now, imagine I'm clicking on update. Okay, so all the data are here. If I will do submit here, what will happen? If I'll do submit here, what will happen? See, submit. Oh, one record inserted. That's not a problem, but I can do a clear console here. I'll show you something. First of all, let me go to controller. I don't want to insert any data. So while doing save, let's do analyze something. And for now, let me comment this save student. I don't want to save the student. I know I'm doing some testing. So let me do command S. So let me comment this particular line. I just want to show you the difference, what we want to catch here, and then we can do this update. Okay, this is a funny thing. Understand this, and the same concept you will be applying whenever you'll be learning Hibernate, Spring Data JPA, whatever. Okay, same concept. So see here how to catch it. Okay, see. Let's go there. First of all, I will go back to this particular page. Let's say somebody want to click on add. He's trying, obviously the ID will not be there. Okay, so the ID, let me remove here. Let me go to JSP, student.jsp. Let me remove the ID from here. Let me cut it from now. Just observe the problem. Okay, so right now the form will look something just like this. The ID will not be there. Now somebody is saying, okay, the name I want to insert is going to be Mohan. The mobile is going to be something. The country is going to be India. Do a submit. When we do a submit, see, this is the data Mohan has entered. Obviously, Mohan will not come here because we have already commented out that particular lines of code. Okay, now see here, the data that Mohan entered is this. Now ID is 0. Obviously, the ID will be 0, because if the ID is going to be 0, then we are obviously doing an insert, because it's an insert operation. We do not want our user to insert the ID. That's why the default value of the ID is 0, because ID default value is what? If I'll go to student, the ID default value is 0 because it is of int type. If you want to make it null, make it integer type. Okay, so anyhow, the ID default value is 0. So we don't care about the ID because we are going to auto increment it. But hold on, whenever we are going to click on this update button, now we expect that right now whenever we do submit, so what should happen? Obviously, again the flow will come to the save student. The data binding will happen here. So all the ID, name, mobile, country, everything we are fetching from the DB. So it should be binded with this. Okay, if it will be binded with this, if I'm printing it, I should get all the data of the student. Isn't it just the way we are getting here? Again, I'll be get something just like this. Okay, let me try to do that. Let me try to do a submit. You'll see something. See, right now, again, it is saying, okay, the data are Aarti, mobile, country, something, but why the ID is not binding? The ID is 0. but I'm not expecting that. I'm clicking on update. So this happy should have an ID. See, while we are showing this particular page, if we'll go to the controller right here, we are printing the student here, right? This the student is what? The student we are getting whenever we are doing a service call. And obviously we are facing it by doing some DB call behind the scene. So right now this data we are getting from the DB. And that's why whenever we are printing it, it is showing me the correct data, which is this. Happy, mobile number is this, country is this, ID is 5. Then this data is going to our student page. Then the our student page you are seeing right now. And obviously we are logging this data, whatever we are sending to this particular page. Here we are logging. That's why you are getting this line. Perfect. Right now this data went to this particular page. Perfect. This is what we want. Okay, this data is here. Right now the problem here is while we are submitting the data. Okay, right now all this data is here. Now let's say happy sing I have updated, or happy sing updated, or a happy sing cool. Okay, I'm updating this. When I do submit, I believe that all this data with the updated name will be populated again. And whenever I'll be printing it just right here, whenever the save will be called, when I'll be printing it just right here, those data I should see that in my console. Right now let's see what is going to happen. Submit. See, happy sing cool, the name got updated, mobile whatever, I have not changed the mobile, country is this. But what about the ID? Last time ID was there, right? 5. But right now the ID is 0. We are losing the ID. Why we are losing the ID? It's simple. I have already given you the option, right? Let me explain why we are losing the ID. Okay, so now let me tell you why we are losing the ID. So basically guys, it's very simple. When we click on update, okay, so we are getting all the data. Now this data is going to obviously to this particular page. Okay, so from our controller, from here we are sending this data to this particular page. Perfect, that's fine. Now if I'll go to this particular page, all the data are binded right now. With path, this data is binding. With mobile, this data is binding. Wherever I'm writing path and I'm reading the data from this particular object, the data are binding. Okay, the data are binding to this property, name, mobile, country, this property of that object, that student object. Okay, so that student object, whenever I'll do submit, that this particular object, this particular data is going to my controller, so that in the save I'm capturing that data just right here. But hold on, here I do not have a field called ID, isn't it? I'm not having that particular field. So if I'll be having that particular field, then the data will go. That's what I wanted to make you understand. Okay, I know I've taken a lot of time for this. I'm sorry about it. I was just saying I have taken 15 or 18 minutes to explain this. I'm sorry about it. So anyhow, if I am going to have form, let's say if I'm going to have another form input, and if I'm going to say ID, right now that ID will be binded, so that right now if the ID will be binded, whenever I'll be sending the ID from here, from the update student, let's say right now I'll get all the data paste from my database. This data will go to my my web page. Here in my web page right now, the ID will be binded to this, the name will be binded to this, the mobile will be binded to this. So right now if you can see, if I'll do refresh here, so you can see for Abhilash it is 1. If I'll go back for Happy Singh, if I click here update, now the ID is 7. So right now if I will remove this, if I do submit, see right now if I do submit, it is saying ID is 7. Previously it was saying ID is null, because right now the ID is getting binded. So if I click on add, obviously the default value of ID will be 0. I won't touch the ID because this ID I'm going to hide, but the name I can say, let's say hacker 1, mobile is something, country is India. Okay, submit. Once I do submit, you will see this ID is going to be 0. So whenever you will do update, the ID you need to send from this particular page to whenever you are going to do submit. So make sure the ID the field should be there. The data binding should happen. But hold on, the data binding should happen so that when I do submit, this data can go to here, and here I can capture the data. Okay. But one problem here is I don't want to show this. Why I should show the ID in the insert form? Anyhow, I do not want my user to enter the ID manually. Whenever I'll be showing the insert form, I do not want to show this ID. I do not want my user to enter the ID, right? So I'm going to do what? The easiest solution for this is that I'm going to make it a hidden field. Instead of saying form input, I'm going to say hidden. Okay, now there you go. Now that particular ID field will not be visible. If I click here, see ID is not there. Okay, but let's say if ID is not there, let's say somebody is trying to do a ad. So he is saying Abhilash, mobile number is something, country is India. Now you'll see he will do submit, the ID is 0. But let's go in the other way. If I click on happy, this particular link will also take me to that particular page. Right now, if I'll do submit, now see happy basically does have an ID. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have this hidden field just right here so that you can do that data binding stuff happening, because whenever you do submit, this data will go through the URL. So you have to make sure that you have to capture the data just right here. Okay, but if you are not providing this ID just right here, obviously if I'll not provide anything, so obviously the data will not be binded. So I will get the default data there, which is 0. So make sure you are going to have this hidden field just right here. Now the job is pretty easy. If I'll go to there, and now I just have to do the coding. Okay, so let me have a condition check here. I can write do a condition check if the user does have a ID, do a insert. Okay, sorry, do a update. If the user does have an ID, means he is already there inside my database, do a update. But if let me say, if the user does not have an ID, then do a insert. Okay, so if he does not have an ID, do a insert. If he does have an ID, do a update. Right now we just have to write the condition check. So right now let's go ahead and do that. Oh my god, I believe that you guys are getting whatever I said. I'm so scared right now. Have you actually got it or not? I feel that I made you understand this. I'm sorry about the time that I took. Okay, no problem. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Okay, let's execute this one. And right now is the fun part. Oh, I'm right now I'm going to write code, and I know writing code is very easy, but understanding what to code is very difficult. Okay, so right now I feel that you guys know what we're trying to code. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and write the code. Okay, so as I told you, writing the code is easy, but making you understand the thing is difficult a little. So right now the difficult thing is done. Now I'm just going to write the code, and I think that what to do. Okay, what to do, how to proceed with this particular piece of code. Okay, but let me do the formalities and let me write that particular piece of code. And I'm feeling a little uncomfortable right now. It's freezing here. It's kind of freezing. It's so cold here. So it's end of December and it's kind of freezing. I don't know, because I'm not very used to this particular weather because I don't stay much at my native. I mean, by December, obviously every year December I stay wherever I basically work. But right now I can feel it. I love winter. I really love winter, but oh man, it's kind of freezing right now. Can I put my cap? And I am going to make sure that you are not going to see me and I'm going to edit it during the time of editing. You are not going to see me while typing the code. So yeah. So right now let me go ahead and write this piece of code. So what we need to do, we have to do a condition check, isn't it? So we have to see one thing. We need to see the student if his get, let's say student.get ID. If the student ID is equal to 0, that means this particular student is already not exist in my database. Okay, if the ID is obviously 0, then the student does not exist in my database. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say I'm going to call the save student method. Okay, I need to do it just right here. Okay, so if the ID is equal to 0, insert a new record to the, new record, insert a new record. I think you can understand this. If the ID is not equal to 0, that means if the ID is existing inside our system, then we will not do a save, do an update. Okay, because he already has the ID. And how to do that? I'll do the same thing. I'll do student service dot update. Where is that update button? Okay, we do not have any method called update, but we are going to do an update, and I'm going to say, I'm going to pass in the student object so that we can update it. Right now I'm going to say that, hey, inside the student service, can you please create me this particular method Eclipse? And Eclipse is going to create this particular method for me. And right now I can go ahead and I can do an update. Okay, so this particular method is just the specification. We need to go to the implementation class of service, and right here, first of all, I have to add the unimplemented method, and right here inside my service I'll do a DAO call. So I'll do student DAO dot update student update. Update method is not there as well, so I'm going to pass in this student, whatever I'm sending from my controller, and there you go. I'll just hover over just right here, and I'll create a new method inside my student DAO. And there you go, new update method is ready inside the DAO. Right now let me give the actual implementation inside the student DAO IMPL. I'll go to the implementation and let me drag this in, and obviously I'm going to hover over here, and I'll say add the unimplemented method, and basically right here I'll be writing the actual update query. Okay, so how to write the update query and how to execute the update. So obviously the SQL is going to be string SQL, and here I'll be writing update a student. What is the table name? Students, right? Let me make it caps. Update students. Then set. How to write an update query? Update student set. Then the column name. Okay, what is my column name? I do not remember my column name. Let me go to my MySQL workbench, and these are my column name, isn't it? So I'll do what? I'll do right click, copy all fields name. Can I copy all the field name so that it will be easier for me to type? I'll paste my field name right here, and I will copy this, and I'll do command V, and I'll say set. This is small letter, that's okay. Let me make it small. Name is equal to something. Mobile is going to be equal to something, and country is going to be equal to something. So set all these columns where ID, let me make the ID as small. You can make it capital, that's not a problem, but let me make it small so that I can maintain the consistency right here. So I'll write ID is equal to question mark. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do, this is the SQL query I have to run. Okay, so this name, mobile, and country, I'll be fetching it from this student object, and make sure that this is the student object I will be sending from my controller. So I have already captured the data there so that I can fetch everything, and I can run this particular query. So what I'm going to do right now, I will do one thing, JDBC template. So I'm inside my DAO, so I'll say JDBC template dot update, and I'm going to update this. So first of all I'll pass in MySQL, then the arguments. The first argument is going to be name, so I'll say student dot get name Perfect. Now I'll do a comma. The next one is mobile, student dot get mobile. The third one is country, so student dot get country. Make sure you are writing in the right order. So country is something, mobile equal to something, name equal to something, and ID equal to something. At last you have to pass in the ID, so the where clause will be executed. So student dot get ID. Okay, there you go. So right now this is my update query. Once done, I'll just write a sysout and I'll say one record updated. Okay, perfect. Just a logger I'm trying to give, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else. Let me do Control-Shift-F to format the code, and there you go. This is my piece of method that I have written. Now I think I have done. If I'll go to the controller, now I will capture the student just right here. For both update and insert, the flow will come here. Now if we do not have the ID, then we will try to save the record. If I'll go here, if I will go to the saving implementation, here basically we'll be inserting the record. You can see that I'm trying to insert the record. But if I'll go back again to controller. Where is my controller? Where is my controller? Man, okay, there you go. Right now here we are going to go to the save student. Right here, if the ID is not null, then if the ID is existing, then we'll go to the implementation of this, and this is going to go to my service method. And right here inside the upon implementation, if I'll go here I have written my update logic, right? If the ID is there, then with that ID I'll put it in the where clause, and the rest of the data I will update it in one shot. Okay, there you go. So here I'm writing my update query. Now let's test this out and let's see whether my application is ready or not. And this is the piece of modification that I have done here. Lot of comments right now. If you want, you can remove it. I can remove all these empty spaces. And yeah, this is what we have to do. Command S to save, and let's run this application right now. All right, so let's go ahead and let's test our application that we have created. And if I remember it correctly, we are supposed to test our update student feature, right? Actually, I ran away between the session just because, I just had to go for some client call, and those people are waiting. And right now, again, I'm coming back and shooting this particular video. So I think I remember everything. I have to test the update functionality. Inside the student controller, I have actually created this particular method, so which is going to basically update or insert the student based on the user action. So we just have to test this just right here. So we have created a couple of students here. Let's say I want to update this particular student. Let me click on update. I get a wrong data here. I can say it Abhipsa, and I can do submit. Well, I'm getting an exception. So the functionality is not working. So it's saying the table Selenium Express.student does not exist. So maybe in my DAO layer, you can see bad SQL grammar. Maybe I have said update student. Maybe I have to make it students. So I have to go back to my DAO layer, and I have to go to my DAO IMPL, and right here I have to fix it. I have to fix this. Okay, there you go. I have to make it students with a S. Make sure you're going to write a S here. Let me do Command S right now. Let me wait till my server reload the changes, and hopefully my functionality is going to work fine right now. So good thing is that right now my flow came to the update method, okay, because of the method that I have written here inside the save student. Right now my student does have an ID. That's why the flow came to the this block, right, the else block. That's good. It did not went to the insert, it went to the update. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Let me go back right now. Let me go back again. Let me do a refresh. Okay, so right now this particular record I want to update right now. Let me click on update and let me say right now Abhipsa. All right, let me do submit, and boom, the record got updated, and we have not created a different record. The existing record got updated and it did not create any new record. That's the good thing, and you can see the log here, one record updated. Perfect. Let's say this Abhilash I want to update to Abhilash Panigrahi. Click on update, go here, change it to Abhilash Panigrahi. Also the country, let's say I want to change it back to UK, and I'll do a submit. Boom, it's changed to Abhilash Panigrahi, so it's working fine. One more thing I want to test. I want to go back to my DB, and here in my DB, okay, again it's changed to the dark theme because I'm shooting it in night. Right now it's 10:30 in the night. Okay, so I'm just trying to complete the stuff which is pending in my afternoon. Okay, so that's why you can see the theme is right now changed to dark. Okay, so do not think that I'm using some kind of different database. I'm using the same database that I used to have. Okay, so right now here also you can see Abhilash is changed to Abhilash Panigrahi. Let me move it back to Abhi or something. Let's see whether it is getting updated or not. Submit. Well, it's changed to Abhi. Now see here, it was Abhilash Panigrahi. Right now if I'm doing it, now it's changed to Abhi. So well, I'm able to make some changes right here in front of my screen, and it is basically impacting in my database, right? So this is what I wanted. Now my update functionality is working fine, and you can see one record is getting updated. What about the insert? I also want to test that, whether the insert is happening fine. Let me say the name is Vicky. The mobile number is something. The country is, let's say, US. I'm saying submit. Well, Vicky is added here, and you can see one record inserted. Let me go there. Let me fire this in, and you can see Vicky is just right here. If I'm going to click on update, if I'm going to say Vicky K, submit, well, that record got updated. If I click on update, if I want to update all this thing, let's say, oh, sorry.
Your music library is empty.
So mobile number, let me update the mobile number. Let me change the country to, let's say, Pakistan or something. Okay, let me try to submit. Let's see that whether this is getting executed or not. Well, all these things changed at the same time, so this is also working fine. So I'm just trying to test out different scenarios, and looks like everything is working fine, and our update and insert is happening as usual. All right, I just want to complete this recording. That's why I'm shooting in the evening. Not in the evening, it's already 10:32. So I'm thinking to complete one more feature of this application. That's the delete functionality. Right now we are done with update. We are done with insert. We are done with fetch or the select. One more is pending. That's called delete, and let's complete it. Okay, and the rest of the stuff I'll take care tomorrow. Anyhow, it's 10:33 in the evening, and it's really freezing here. It's so cold, and well, I got some motivation for myself. Want to see? These are the motivations. Some people also commented me in the comment section that how did I got some weight? Okay, I did put on some weight, and how did I have that? Okay, this is the secret behind it. Do not go to gym. Leave your gym. Sit in front of your computer and have this. You are going to have a conversion. You are going to see the transformation for sure. Don't do that, guys. This is really bad. Just joking. Well, that's my motivation. Once I complete this, I'm going to have it. And this is also a new taste. You can see this dairy milk, and it's coffee flavor. This flavor also I've tried. This is also good. If anybody wants to taste it, go with that. Okay, go with this particular flavor. They have not paid me. Okay, this is free promotion I'm doing for dairy milk, and obviously they do not want me to do promotion. Okay, I have such a small YouTube channel, isn't it? So, all right. So right now the update is working, the InShot is working, the fetch is working. One more thing, delete. Let me include one more link here called delete. So that let's say if I do not want this wiki record to be here, I can simply delete this record from my database. And how to do that? Well, let's understand that right now and let's implement it.